time.
After what the FBI is calling a second assassination attempt on the former president in the matter of 64 days. Trump was golfing at the Trump International Golf Course in West Palm Beach, Florida, when Secret Service saw a man hidden in the bushes with a rifle pointed toward the course in the direction of the former president. A suspect is in custody, and multiple agencies are investigating the incident. President Biden saying in a statement that he's relieved that the former president is unharmed, and, quote, "There is no place for political violence or any violence ever in our country." We will have more throughout the hour on what happened at that golf course and reactions from the Trump campaign as well as congressional lawmakers. In the meantime, I'd like to bring in Rich Giardino. Rich, thank you so much for joining us. Rich Giardino, are you with us? Rich, can you hear me?
Oh, he's there. What happened to audio?
And we are going to go back to Rich as soon as we get communications established. In the meantime, the Secret Service and local law enforcement have said that they do have a suspect in custody following the assassination attempt on former President Trump. And in the meantime, we are going to bring it back in studio with Luis Martinez, NTD's Washington correspondent. Luis, what do you anticipate coming out of Congress this week following this second attempt on the former president's life?
Well, this coming week for Congress was already going to be a very busy week. We only have 2 more weeks before government runs out of money, and they still don't have a plan for funding government through fiscal year 2025. The idea was to vote on a continuing resolution. Republicans are proposing to have it attached with the SAVE Act. So what we're expecting, or at least I would expect to see this week, is at least some messaging bills coming from House Republicans to condemn this second attempt on the life of former President Donald Trump. And obviously, we're in campaign season. It's a perfect opportunity to see if Democrats are willing to be on board with publicly condemning what is, of course, something that is destabilizing American democracy. We'll obviously also see this play out in the down the ballot races for the elections, because as we know, Steve, this election are going to be decided by undecided voters, and right now this event will most likely move the needle. You'll see, obviously, Republicans down the ballot talking about the investigations into the DOJ, investigations into Department of Homeland Security, and into the what some people want to say conspiracy theories, but all these lapses in security that have led to 2 attempts on the former president's life. So it will add to a very busy week in Congress, but it's a perfect opportunity to see how lawmakers vote on these issues. So I do expect to see House Republicans bringing some messaging bills to condemn what happened this weekend.
And so, Luis, how much do you see this changing the course of business on Capitol Hill this week? And separately, how do these types of events affect the image of the United States, the most powerful country in the world, on the global stage?
Well, to the first question, 2 weeks to the end of this Congress, unless they extend sessions, if there's a lack of a government funding deal, I don't see House Republicans missing out on an opportunity to have national coverage for messaging bills or even hearings. Maybe they will try and subpoena Alejandro Mayorkas again, because at the top of U.S. Secret Services, of course, Department of Homeland Security, and it's not the first thing that House Republicans have been complaining from Mayorkas in the past 3 years. Let's remember that they passed an impeachment in the House that the Senate just dismissed entirely. And in the second question, how does this affect U.S. image internationally? Well, we've seen in the past few weeks that there was a member or a potential Chinese spy detained in New York working for two former governors. We also saw the DOJ coming up, or at least divulging information about Russian attempts to influence U.S. elections. And we've also seen in the past 3 years since the Afghanistan withdrawal how the U.S. adversaries are acting more boldly. We have Iran sending missiles to Russia, North Korea sending shipments of artillery munitions to Russia, Russia invading Ukraine, and obviously China exerting more influence and pressure internationally. So if they can see that, any person can just jump into a golf course and try and kill a former president, the candidate of one of the two main parties of what is supposed to be the leading democracy in the world, it does not show for a good show of strength and confidence in American democracy.
NCD Washington correspondent Luis Martinez, stand by with us for a moment here. Right now, to have a closer look at the security measures at the Trump International Golf Club, we're joined by retired NYPD homicide detective Peter Fercelli. Peter, thank you so much for joining. Rich, I apologize. Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yes, I'm sorry, I can hear you.
Audience.
Okay, so according to Secret Service, the shooter aimed at former President Trump from about 300 to 400 yards away. Given the proximity, can you give us an overview of how easy or difficult it is for a suspect to potentially hit this target?
Obviously, somebody's got some audio problems.
Fence and also through the trees. That's very good work on his part. I also think it's important to know that this is being handled much better than the Pennsylvania.
Now, the shooter reportedly opened fire outside the fence line. Is that location a usual blind spot for Secret Service agents?
That logistically, it's very difficult to cover a golf course, and there's so much area to cover, and there's just so many agents and so many tools, like drones and other cameras. So it's very difficult to ensure safety and protection in a remote environment.
Now, recently, Democratic Senator Rich Blumenthal, a Democrat from Connecticut, said that the American people will be, quote, shocked and appalled by the security failures surrounding the first assassination attempt against former President Trump. This was before today even unfolded. I want to get your thoughts. What do you expect to come out of that investigation, and how might this be perceived now with the second attempt?
The FBI and local sheriffs have taken the lead with publicity and releasing information. If you remember the previous attempt, the Secret Service handled off, made all kinds of excuses, and blamed the local police. I have to give credit to the FBI and the locals because they released photographs, they released information on how they caught the individual, and they have been forthright with several press conferences. So I think that you're going to hear a lot of disturbing things come out with the initial report in December. And you have to remember, Senator Blumenthal is a Democrat, and he's at the forefront of the investigation. And I think they're doing a good job in trying to assess for the future what we can do. I do believe that we can't have enough security under these circumstances. And again, a lot of what we saw the first time they're trying to correct by getting the message out there in the beginning.
And to your point, you can never have enough security. From what we understand right now, following the first assassination attempt, former President Trump's Secret Service detail was increased. It was evident at some of the rallies. You could see just right around him there were more agents.
Oh, yeah.
However, it's still not as much as a sitting president would have. Do you think that this will cause Secret Service and possibly our sitting president, President Biden, to reassess the detail for Trump? Could we see an even bigger increase?
They should have done that the first time. If you recall, it took the attempted assassination of President Trump for them to do protection to RFK Jr. RFK Jr. was a prime target. He lost his father and his uncle to assassination. He had a burglary attempt at his home, and he had threats. And what Mayorkas said, interesting, is he said President Biden has ordered security for Robert F. Kennedy Jr., making you wonder if the reason they had not increased security for President Trump is because the White House was controlling and micromanaging security. I think that you're going to see a greater presence and you're going to see greater partnerships with the local agencies. I do think it's important to know that a civilian in this case took photographs of the vehicle and the individual, and then the license plates were fed into what we call LPRs, which are license plate readers. And we have stationary ones along the highways. We have mobile ones we can position, and we have license plate readers in police cars. And this worked the way it should. They put the plate in the system, and it was spotted. I think that the individual here, in a matter of minutes later, the president would have been in trouble because he would have been right in the line. So I think that it's very difficult to protect President Trump because how he moves around. But I think that they have learned from the last time, as far about the transparency, get as much information out to the public as quick as they can. Now, some of the stuff may still be faulty information because it hasn't been vetted clearly, but at least they're telling you who fired, how he was located, and releasing photos. I think the prior director had to resign the Secret Service in lieu of her failure to respond and her, let's say, her being on it, fair with everyone. And I think everyone started laughing when she said the roof was too steep for the Secret Service to be on. So that hurt the credibility of the agency.
Now, Peter, obviously you have decades of law enforcement experience. As human nature sets in and, human beings become numb to certain, tragic events and trauma, try to put things into perspective. How normal or not normal is this situation that we're seeing, back-to-back assassination attempts on not just a former president, but also the Republican nominee to become the next president?
Peter, for me.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry, Peter. Please go ahead.
All right, well, this is Rich. So here's the problem. The political rhetoric is very incendiary in that it takes mentally ill people, unstable people, who continues to put it in their mind that Trump has to be stopped at all costs. In fact, the individual that they see today allegedly had posted the same things that Kamala Harris and Biden had said about democracy as it's made. And if Trump becomes president, Americans will lose their, it'll become a dictatorship. So I think the political rhetoric itself prepared as this. I hope that this is the new norm, but I fear that this does numb people as we see mass shootings and school shootings, which also seem to add up each additional one. It desensitizes us to the violence instead of emboldening us to be more about how to take care of our schools and our students.
Rich Giardino, really appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve.
And we'll be back with more of our special live coverage of the second assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. Stay with us.
Instead of deporting one drug-dealing illegal, Kamala picked him for a jobs program, a job he couldn't legally hold, helping clear his criminal record. Kamala's hand-picked illegal then nearly killed a woman. It could have been prevented, but Kamala put her liberal values ahead of our safety.
And welcome back to NTD Television's special live coverage of the second assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump earlier today. To have a closer look at the security measures at the Trump International Golf Club, we're now joined by retired NYPD homicide detective Peter Fercelli. He's also a former deputy director of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives. Peter, thank you so much for joining us. Peter, if you could, please give us your initial thoughts on the second assassination attempt from a law enforcement perspective.
Well, I'm shocked in the first place that we're even having a discussion about a second attempt. As we're aware, the Secret Service beefed up the protection of former President Trump, but apparently it wasn't robust enough. Now, one of the challenges is that former President Trump lives a very public lifestyle. It's hard to cover somebody who's out in open areas so frequently, but they dropped the ball here once again. And if it wasn't for the very observant civilian who was able to get the license plate number of that vehicle as it fled and relay that information to law enforcement, we may be talking about a manhunt as opposed to an individual being arrested for trying to murder a former president and current presidential nominee for the Republican Party.
Peter, do you think that there needs to be a broader discussion right now about sort of this radicalization that we're seeing and this political extremism?
Yeah, and look, one of the bigger problems that I see is that some of the problems that are driving this are the words that come out of the mouths of our elected officials. The rhetoric is just so vitriolic and venomous that it takes folks who might not be mentally stable and pushes them over the edge. Looking at Ryan Wesley Routh and his posts, which I got a chance to look at some of his Facebook postings before it was his account was shut down. Troubling. I mean, he clearly viewed himself as some sort of a mercenary. A lot of postings about recruiting soldiers to fight in the Ukraine. Others alleging that he had the ability to take fighters from Afghanistan and send them to Haiti. Just very interesting stuff in a bad way. And I can't for the life of me see how he was not on the radar of the FBI or some other federal law enforcement organization based merely on the stuff that he was posting on social media. I mean, that stuff is scoured. They look for keyword searches to look for people who have a propensity for violence. And this guy fit that bill squarely.
And to your point, there are other reports coming out saying that he had posted things more sympathetic to the Chinese Communist Party when it came to the students protesting in Hong Kong as well. According to Secret Service officials, this shooter that we're talking about right now, he aimed at former President Trump from roughly 300 to 400 yards away. Given that proximity, it sounds far, but give us an idea with the type of gun and scope that was used. How far was it in those terms?
Well, look, the chances of making that shot are not as they're not as likely as the shooter that happened in Butler. The AK-47 variant rifle that he used is not as accurate as the AR-15 platform rifle. It's not an impossible shot. The fact that he can get that close with a semi-automatic rifle is incredibly troubling. My understanding is it had a scope on it. The other thing is I'm aware that his backpacks had ceramic tiles in them. Now, what a lot of folks don't know is that law enforcement officers, above their soft body armor, will often wear ceramic plates to protect them from rifle rounds. So clearly, what he was trying to do was put together a poor man's version of body armor. So this shows that there was some degree of planning and premeditation here. But we got lucky. Once again, the nation dodged a bullet.
And to your previous point about the suspect's social media posts, there are reports that it's been, washed or shut down. Why would we see that? There are a lot of people that are calling for more transparency. Is this typical protocol?
Yeah, at times, look, the FBI will ask for people to shut down these sort of sites while they scour through it. The other thing is there's concerns that maybe there are postings in there that are designed to communicate with other people, other co-conspirators, so they want to cut off that line of communication. So I don't necessarily always think it's an effort to keep the public in the dark. Sometimes it's an effort to actually protect public safety. My understanding is Elon Musk's platform, kept some of the postings up, but I know Facebook did shut those postings down. They shut down his whole account. I did get a chance to somewhat thoroughly look through it before it was shut down, though, as soon as his name was mentioned in news reports. I wanted to get an idea of what this person was about. And again, very, very troubling, very interesting guy, and like I said, in the worst ways possible. A lot of venom, a lot of vitriol. But again, I think that he feeds off of some of the stuff that are coming out of the mouths of our elected officials, and that needs to stop. I mean, look, this is not in the best interest of public safety because people can't get hurt aside from the protecting, as we saw in Denver. I mean, a man was killed there. So, I mean, it's tragic. That we're having this discussion again is troubling, offensive. I mean, you name the adjective, and it's a big problem.
Yes, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Have a great evening.